So, hello people, Jude the Obscure as I promised. The very name suggests some sense of a lost soul. Jude, the very name, is that of one who cheated Christ. So, right in the beginning, a cautious reader would sense that there is something of a sense of loss of innocence, as the famous poem goes, or set of poems goes. Okay, so obviously, even in the beginning of the book, we realize that it begins at a sad note. There's a teacher departing, and the student, Jude, feels that sense of loss. Perhaps he wanted to study, perhaps he wanted to become someone like his teacher. So, right at the beginning of the book, a dream is broken. Okay, from here on, we begin on a journey which is about sadness, which is about one problem to another problem. Okay, that's what Jude the Obscure becomes about slowly. So, who are the main characters in the book or the novel, to be more precise? Arabella Dunn. Arabella Dunn is the first character you meet apart from Jude. Who is she? When you first meet her, she's a very, outgoing, frank girl rather, teenager, and she is kind of sassy, desirous, and as the old critics would like to say, flesh desiring. She is a woman of desires. Okay, but for an analysis that a current reader would do, Jude is equally to take a role in doing what he does. Okay, we cannot find one person innocent and other the criminal, as Hardy does. Okay, the story moves on. As Jude grows up, he has that sense of loneliness in him. He has that sense of malignity, that upsetness in him. So the obscurity goes on increasing. But there is a dream. The dream is to become a professor in the university. Okay. So if we look at the entire story, this failure of Jude to become a professor is somewhat like the original Jude failing to become a disciple of Christ. And of course, what happens after that? Fall from grace. That's what happens, right? The same happens with Jude. The ways are different, the story is the same. Okay, the style of writing is different because obviously Hardy was a different writer. He was unique in himself, so he won't go for the older styles or the older same story. So that's how the change comes. How does the story move forward? And Jude is about to get desirous to become like his teacher, to go to Christminster. Christminster becomes the symbol of life itself throughout the book. It becomes what we can perceive as the meaning of life. Okay, Jude runs after Christminster. He wants to become a professor there, as we would more precisely call it, a rector, a teacher of religion. But he fails. He fails because he does not know Latin, first of all, and all his endeavors are forced by an economic crisis, a crisis of non-availability of resources, and a crisis of not being able to bring his dreams to truth. So now we are going to analyze what makes Jude obscure. Sorry, whether it's only Arabella or the other women that come in his life, whether it is Sue or the others that come in his life. No, I don't think so. These are they who create the problem. Actually, a large part of it is also Jude himself, because Jude is a teenager when he begins, but we are very sure that he is not free of his physical desires. So he is equally attracted to Arabella. It would be wrong to say that Arabella was the woman of flesh and she represents flesh in the book and desires like that. Maybe Hardy would have said that in his times, but we are not, we are not masochist readers to take woman as the cause of a problem. Okay, whatever problem it is. Like for example, Eve had been the cause of Adam falling. I don't believe in such an idea, and personally, I wouldn't recommend that for a broad reading of literature. The second thing, what is the second most important message in the book? That Christianity falls. Okay, Hardy was not much of a believer in Christianity. Obviously, these things don't happen in isolation. There are experiences in life which change you to become like that. Okay, so there is a very famous scene where a church is being broken by this Mason, Jude, in the latter part of the book. Okay, and that scene symbolizes the fall of Christ, the fall of God. Obviously, when God falls, humanity is not to survive, and so Jude and his family don't have a happy life. They are not to survive, they are not to struggle and win over the existence of God. But the trouble is on, the sorrow is on. Okay, this is what Hardy has explained in his book. Right from the beginning, Jude is an orphan. Okay, he lives at his aunt's house and struggles. This struggle does not end till the end. Okay, that's the problem with Jude. Arabella becomes a problem. Sue becomes a very interesting, different kind of a problem. When you like a woman and she likes you, but she does not love you in a dependent way, then, at least for those times when the book was being written, it becomes a very different cause, different problem for the people. Okay, a woman who does not want to surrender to the desires of a man is a big problem in Hardy's century, that is the 19th century. So now, luckily, we have moved ahead of it. We are believing in individual women, like Sue was. But for those times, Sue was a symbol of absolute, horrendous, mind-shaking independence. From this link, we come to the idea to understand why Hardy's book was badly treated in the market of those times. It was burnt on the altar. Why was it burnt? Because it was called irreligious, something which is anti-social. So society meant women had to be below men. Okay, if Jude had chosen Arabella, he had chosen her, and whatever the situation, she had to be with him. Okay, if something went wrong with Jude, it was all because of Arabella. If Sue did not stand for Jude, it was Sue's fault. If she was running away from the school teacher, as there is in that book, the school teacher of Jude, okay, when Sue decides to run away from that school teacher, that decision is also very interesting. From a current reader's perspective, it is very simple, that it was a mismarriage, and she chooses to break off. But remember, divorce is not so easy in those times. We can't have divorce as we have it today. So for a current reader, the idea is to analyze whether those times were fair enough for women, for men, or were we living in a society where religion was just standing for its own sake. Society was standing for its own sake. Okay, and obviously Hardy was not standing along with these rules or these customs. He was standing against them. That's what makes him contemporary to us. Even now we have such backlogs in one or the other form. For example, there was a very famous instance of triple talaq, which Muslim women struggled for long. Okay, but now luckily it has been done away with. There are several property laws, in Hinduism, which would not permit women to have property as they would permit men to have it. So these are small issues that relate to that kind of a society where equality does not exist. There is another big message in the book, that is fall of Christianity. I'd like to deal with that now in the latter part of this video. The fall of Christianity suggests that Hardy himself believes that the statement which I posted earlier, happiness is an interlude in the general drama of pain. When he believes in such a pessimistic idea, or perhaps it is his philosophy of life, it would be wrong to call it a pessimistic idea, because sometimes life is really that harsh, So the same way for Jude, and even for the second generation that comes up, the three children that the family of Jude has, and as in Jude and Arabella have, falls, okay, and there's a small child that becomes a cause of sorrow. The child kills itself, the child from Arabella, and neither Sue is there to help her, nor Jude is able to help him. Nobody. So the trouble is that the child is helpless. Probably the child could signify Christ, okay, because child by itself is not something wrong. It was the creation of some kind of a sinful relationship that happened. If we interpret the book theologically, if we interpret it socially, then perhaps there is a desirous thing in human beings which creates that kind of sorrow. When we don't realize that we are not ready for a relationship and we end up jumping into it, this is what happens. Okay, so at the end of the book, Jude is dying. Sue is nowhere to be seen. She is in absolute destruction, nowhere to be seen, as in not physically absent, but she is a negligible part of the book. If at all she's affecting it, she's affecting it very negatively. All the strength that she has shown is fading away slowly. Whatever prospective relationship Jude and Sue could have had is falling apart. Okay, the schoolmaster, the once symbol of knowledge, ideas, is falling. Christminster itself has fallen. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. This is how the book ends. This is how Jude the Obscure ends. It ends in obscurity. So perhaps if we analyze the entire message of the book, okay, true to the Victorian compromises problem, it says that humanity is in darkness. We don't know where we are going. Okay, Jude doesn't know where he's going. Jude's child doesn't know where he's going. Arabella didn't know where she was going when she married. It's as if the civilization has forgotten where they want to go. When we read this in current times, we realize that perhaps the same thing is happening to us. We don't know why we are doing what we do. Okay, we don't know why we go after buying things. We just buy things because that's the trend. Okay, how far is following trend justified? These are the questions that you could ask yourself when you read that book, and then connect it to the past to understand what changes are necessary, what changes were acceptable then, what changes need to be made now. Thank you. Have a happy reading of the book. I'll be very interested to clear out any doubts, any questions, anything that is unclear or needs to be elaborated. Please comment. Share and like is up to you. Thank you.